Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, we're remembering John Ascuaga with Tony Lubbers. He was John's former CEO of the Nugget and Sparks. Here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
See one of the best-selling country artists of all time, Trace Atkins, live at the Carson Valley Inn, July 2nd and 3rd. Tickets start at $79. Call or go online. Visit CarsonValleyInn.com. Trace Atkins live at CVI, July 2nd and 3rd.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
The Do It Right guys at Nevada Heating have one mission. Your furnace breaks down today, we fix it today. Why freeze for days while your furnace is down when Nevada Heating can get the job done today and you can get warm again? For nearly 50 years, locally owned Nevada Heating has been getting the job done right. Call today at 323-5585 and we'll fix it today. That's 323-5585 or online at nevadaheating.com.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low, and our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way, because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
See one of the best-selling country artists of all time, Trace Atkins, live at the Carson Valley Inn, July 2nd and 3rd. Tickets start at $79. Call or go online. Visit CarsonValleyInn.com. Trace Atkins live at CVI, July 2nd and 3rd.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, I am absolutely delighted to welcome back to the program after many, many years, Tony Lubbers. He is the former CEO of John Ascuaga's Nugget. He joined John Ascuaga's Nugget in 1962, retired in 1997. And with the passing of John Ascuaga, over the last couple of days, the conversations I've had with so many people and talking, it's all of our lives. I mean, literally all of our lives that we have memories from being around the Nugget and being around John. And you were a big part of that. You maintained your friendship with John all these years after you retired. When was the last time you spoke with John?
Friday before he passed away.
And what was the conversation?
Well, he was going through some treatments, and he told me he had a spot in his lung. And so there was two treatments for 2 weeks in a row, and I called him each week and said, "How you doing?" He said, "Well, all right." It didn't much of an answer. After the second set, I talked to him Friday and said, "How you doing, John?" He said, "Not so good." He said, and that was it. He was just having lunch. He said, "I'll call you back." That's the last time I talked to him. And then his son called me the morning he passed away at 3 a.m. and he said he wanted to be sure you were one of the first to be notified that you wouldn't hear from anybody else. Dad passed away at 3 a.m. this morning. It was Stephen Ascuaga called me, which I really appreciated. Shocked me, but not totally unexpected the way he sounded to me on Friday. So, but what a hell of a guy to work for. That's all I can say. But what he did for me and the chances he gave me. Here came as an immigrant from Holland in 1957, and I ran it was kind of the story that people ask me, "How did you get to the Nugget?" I said, my wife and I, we went on a trip and we went to Reno because we wanted to see what gambling was all about. I had a job in Carmel. I ran a restaurant called the Hearthstone in Carmel for Mark Thomas in Monterey, and So I came here and said, I wanted to know what another steakhouse looked like. That was the first time I worked in a steakhouse. Before I came to the United States, I worked in Saudi Arabia for 2.5 years, you know, as a chef for the operation there, sort of Trans-Arabian pipeline. So anyway, I asked, what is a great steakhouse in this area? And they said, well, you would have to go to Sparks. I said, where's Sparks? You know, yeah, it was my first time in Reno. I said, where's Sparks? He said, well, you get on this street, this B Street, and you go, and you'll see it on the end. And the Nugget was indeed on the end of the street. And that was in 1960. And there was a gentleman by the name of Cor van der Stocker, and
who was a legend, like yourself.
Oh, yeah, and he was in charge of the restaurant operation, but he wanted to go into the showroom, and John Ascuaga was thinking of building a showroom at that time. And it didn't happen until about 2 years later, and it was still in progress when I got there. And but Cor shifted to the showroom, became the maitre d' for the rest of his life there, and did a great job. And there was a gentleman that John had worked with through college. His name was Ellis Jones. And he was my boss, immediate boss. He was in charge of the restaurant operation. Remember, at that time, the Nugget had 500 employees. When I retired, we had 2,985, a little different.
Right.
And so, but anyway, Ellis Jones was a great guy to work with, and he got a job somewhere in Oregon. I'm not exactly remember what town it was, but he went to Oregon, and I took over his job, and that's how it went. And so I became in charge of food operation, which was, my background was all in food, you know. I always kick back a little bit. When when I was in Holland, if you were for a job, the first thing they wanted to see is your high school diploma, is your bread and pastry diploma, if you applied for something like that, or whatever diploma you had. I came to Monterey and I had all this stuff on my arm, you know, and I thought that was the first thing they asked me. I said to him, would you like me to see my diplomas? He said, no. He said, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Thomas talked to me and he said, no, just tell me what you did. Believe me by my words, you know, I could have told him anything. But, you know, they trust you, you know, and that's a beautiful thing.
So let me ask you this. What was it like the first time you met John Ascuaga? Here's a guy, I towered over him at 5'4.5" because he was only 5'4". So we were a pair of little guys. You come into this 500-person operation in Sparks at the end of the road, as you put it. Who was John Ascuaga to you at that point in time, and what was the first meeting like?
Well, I met him, I was hired by a man by the name of George Van der Brink, and also Dutch heritage, and anyway, and he didn't stay there very long, so I wound up in that slot, you know. I went to work there, they just gave me a job in it was a banquet room, Virginia room. Now it's the Oyster Bar. And they said, you're in charge of that? I said, you got to give me more to do than that. I said, what am I going to do with this place? And, you know, I mean, banquets, I was appointed as a banquet manager, you know. And so they gave me the coffee shop. I said, okay, keep an eye on the coffee shop. You schedule the coffee shop crew. I said, that sounds better. So anyway, that's how it went. But it must have been, well, I got briefly introduced into John, you know, but I was just a banquet manager that was, you know, and then later on he got more in, he sat me down and said, tell me where you come from, give me a history, you know. And so I told him pretty much the same thing that I've told you so far, you know, as far as working in Arabia and blah, blah, blah. And I worked on the ships as a chef on the Old American Line. And I got more to do and more to do as time went on. And when Ellis Jones left, I wound up with all the restaurants. He said, do you think you can handle that? I said, yeah, I think so. And so that's how it went. And then that's a big jump, but in 1980, Pete Carr retired, and I'd been there 18 years, you know, and then I got the whole mop, and we cut back on some people. I wound up with taking all the entertainment bookings over for the next 17 years. And I was in charge of bar, food, everything except gaming, you know. That was not my cup of tea. I didn't know deck of cards from nothing. You know, I never gambled. And so there was, that was a separate department and it worked fine. Mac Potter was in charge of that. And so, and then they came up with these fancy titles, you know. It was general manager then, and then it became the CEO, and it's, you know, and all this kind of stuff, and vice president of this and vice president of that. And so anyway, for the next 18, when Pete Carr retired, he made me the general manager of the whole Nugget.
So let me ask you this. What was the secret, in your opinion, to John's success? Because it was extraordinary success from a tiny property that he bought from Dick Graves for a little over $3 million to what we see today, which is the
what
results.
I think was the answer to that? First of all, quality. There was, price was important, but was not the answer, you know. And I was, once a month I sat down with everybody in the culinary, the chef and so on, and the storeroom manager, and we had a whole price list of everything we bought. And that was good for a month. And I made the agreement with all the people that we did business with that those prices would stay that way for a month. Nobody could, and that way the storeroom manager could just check it off against a major, against a big list, and that was the end of that. And it worked very well. What was the answer for John's success? He spent more time on the floor than he did in his office. And he told me the same thing. I wound up with 2 secretaries later on. And if I spent an hour in my office, that was about it. And I did everything. I bought the furniture, I bought this, and so. He went, there was nobody in the food crew that sat down between 11:30 and 1:30. You were going from table to table with a pitcher or a cup of coffee in your hand, I mean a pot of coffee in your hand, and said, you know, rather than walking up to the table in a suit and said, how are you doing, folks? I mean, who the hell is this guy? You know, when you have a pot of coffee in your hand, people know right away that you belong to the place and you're a servant. So whether they wanted it or not, you know, but it was a smooth introduction. So that, but I think that John's involvement in the community, I mean, was tops, you know. I mean, I remember going to, I forgot the name of the place, but every Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, he sent me to a hall downtown where some 300 people that were on hardship could get a free meal, and the Nugget provided all the food, and the crew to serve it and take care of things, and that was my job, you know. And until I got somebody that could replace me, and that was later on. And that kind of, you know, he had that attitude all the way through. He knew, I don't know where this man got his memory from, God bless him. He knew every busboy by name, I swear it. And waitresses, you know, and you know, and I'm pretty good at remembering names, but he topped me there. But I think it was his whole, he went through the oyster bar and stopped at every booth, you know, and said hi and hello, and sometimes he recognized them, sometimes he didn't, and all that kind of stuff. That, I think his personal, his persona, his whole attitude, and quality first, service same, and it was not always the price that mattered, you know. We bought sometimes the most expensive stuff, but it was tops, you know. And for instance, a little thing, and he loved it the way I did that, you know, because top sirloin is one of my favorite steaks, but it has to have 2 weeks age on it, otherwise it's tough. So I made a deal with one Del Paramount in California. I said they had a special place set up, and we did a volume by that time, you know. That was just, I'm talking about 15 years after I started, for instance. I mean, that they had a special refrigerator for aging, and I said, if you run out, you tell me. And I'll tell them, I'm sorry, I said, we're out of top sirloin. I'm not going to serve a top one. And it had to be 2 weeks of age on it, at least. And that kind of stuff, you know. And the same thing, and same thing with me, for instance, you know, when I got his trust, we talked about, for instance, the general store. The place got bigger and bigger. We're building a tower and so on. And I said, John, we need a bigger coffee shop. I said, yeah. I said, we can do that. but this before the plans went out, you know. I said, I want a 300-seat coffee shop, he said to me. I said, there's a cook in the world that can read a wheel that has tickets for 300 customers. I said, we need to put 2 kitchens side by side and make it look like one. And if you go to now it's called Rosie's, if you go to the general store, it was called then you had 1 crew of this side and 1 crew of that side. We had 16 waitresses in the place, and we had like 15, about 10 cooks, 5 on each line, and it was like 2 separate dining rooms under 1 roof. That's what, but it didn't look that way.
Right.
You know, and I had 2 counters, 1 in front of one window, 1 in front of the other window. And we did a couple of thousand of customers in 1 shift. And we had a half-hour wait in front of almost everything. I mean, and I think it was a personality of how John treated his employees and how the employees in response treated him, you know. And I walked into Rayleigh's yesterday in Reno, and this waitress says to me, "Hi, Tony, how are you?" I said, she worked for the Nugget for 25 years. And then she got out of there when the place got sold and so on, and went to work at Rayleigh's and said, my God, I said, I was in a hurry to get out of there. I was going to talk to you when I get back in town, and I will. And anyway, I could sit here to talk for 2 hours, but that's not necessary.
Well, we don't have 2 hours, but we do have a bit more time, so let's take a break. We'll come back more with Tony Lubbers, former CEO of John Ascuaga's Nugget, reminiscing about John, who passed away at the age of 96. We'll be right back.
7 at 7 is available anytime, anywhere.
I'm Riley Smith with your Vegas Golden Knights. Watch 7 minutes of nonstop news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Streaming on LVRJ.com and Twitter, powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
I'm Jeff Gehrman, an investigative reporter with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. I'm your guide for Season 2 of Mobbed Up, The Fight for Las Vegas.
You're in with every gangster and hoodlum in the United States.
I don't go for that, Mr. Kennedy. I don't go for that kind of action.
I was on television accused of fronting for the mob.
Subscribe to Mobbed Up, The Fight for Las Vegas, Season 2, today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
7 at 7 is available anytime, anywhere.
I'm Riley Smith with your Vegas Golden Knights. Watch 7 minutes of nonstop news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Streaming on LVRJ.com and YouTube, powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're reminiscing about John Ascuaga and John Ascuaga's Nugget with Tony Lubbers, the former CEO of John Ascuaga's Nugget. As you had mentioned earlier, you were in charge of entertainment as one of your roles for many years. John was pretty strict about the kind of entertainment and the way that entertainers behaved. Share with us, if you will, what happened when a certain entertainer got out of line.
I'm glad you touched on that. That's always one that sticks in my mind. And I got to a point where John trusted me whatever decision I made. You know, that was a good feeling. So we had a dinner show and we had kids' family show. And I got a call. It was opening night. And I was busy with something else. Normally I'm there opening night, but I missed that one. So somebody came to me and said, Mr. Lubbers, I said, you better listen in. You're going to get a lot of complaints. I said, I just want you to brace yourself. And I did get a few calls from mothers that were a little ticked off, and not to use the other word. And I said, so that night I went to the show, and before I went, I said, sir, I said, I forgot what the name of the entertainment was, and I wouldn't mention it anyway, but I said, you know, your remarks were totally off color. I said, very offensive, and even the employees in the room were upset with the whole thing because they knew that that didn't fly in John Ascuaga's place. And so he said, oh, I'm so sorry, and blah, blah. You know, the next night I thought I didn't trust it. I went in there, it was the same damn show. I went to the cashier's cage, I said, give me a paycheck for a week. I'll pay him half, 2-week engagements. I said, and I went backstage and here's your check. I said, thank you very much. And I said, that's the end of it. I told you yesterday. I said, don't do that. I said, and tonight, when I sat through the whole show, it was the same thing. So, and he couldn't believe that I fired him. I mean, he was out, and I got lucky, and I don't remember the situation. There was an entertainer that could come in for a couple of nights because we had bookings, you know, and covered up that week. And you know, but I didn't have to worry. I told John I called him on the phone and said, you know, I said, this is what it did, good for you, he said. And yeah, and then you know, sometimes you have problems, and very seldom that you have to get that forceful, you know. But I remember one time I was we had a big dining room, rotisserie, a buffet and menu. And here I see this waitress, Anna Marie, walk through, tears in her eyes. And I thought, oh my God, and I spotted that. I said, I walk after her, I said, what's the matter? I said, something wrong in the family? He said, no, sir. He said, this man over there, he said, this is the second time I've waited on him, and he just gave me such a bad time. And, you know, this guy played a game to where it got to the supervisor. You know how the gaming industry is. When the guy is really unhappy, you pick up his check, you know what I mean? So, and she was crying, and she was one of the best, if not the best, in the room. I said, you dry your tears, and I'll watch this. And so when it was all over, you know, and he was surprised that nobody came and picked up the check, I said, sir, I said, you put my best waitress in tears. He said, and the check has been picked up before, but not this time. I said, would you do me a favor? He said, don't come back, you know. And, you know, me telling him not to ever come back in the Nugget, that was a first for me. You know, I'd never done that, but this was just the top of the, you know what I mean.
But it was typical of what was happening at the Nugget, which was that the customers weren't necessarily more important than the staff because it was a giant family. Yeah. And John directed that from the top, and you were the man that carried it out. Let's take one more break and we'll be right back.
Yep. Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Come visit Design Outdoor's store and backyard to see our wide selection of fire pits, barbecues, and pizza ovens, natural stone water features and fountains, and frost-proof pottery. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Can't do it. Stupid, like my mom.
We can't do anything at Mommy's because you won't pay child support.
Dad said you cheated, and he's not even sure he's my dad.
Mommy said you left both of us, so she isn't gonna let me see you. I look just like my father.
I'm divorce attorney Marilyn York, and I may represent men, but hate has no gender, only casualties. Please, stop sacrificing your children in your war against your ex.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Tony Lubbers. He's the former CEO of John Ascuaga's Nugget. John passed away in the last week at the age of 96. Red Skelton, of all the huge stars that came to John Ascuaga's Nugget, and I've been in Reno since 1978. Red Skelton was my absolute favorite. I know John loved him. I know you loved him. Just give us a couple of sentences on Red Skelton. Oh,
he was the man on the speaker when we opened up the first tower. That's in that book there, you know. Anyway, he was the one that one time I had to call him, and I was hoping he was doing nothing, and one of our entertainers was sick, and he couldn't make it. And he flew in and did the show, and We had to change the ad, of course, but that's what Red Skelton was, you know. Oh, man. He was so, him and John were like this, you know, and when you see the picture of the grand opening, I'm sitting here, John sitting there, Red Skelton is behind the podium and cracking jokes, and you know, this guy was a genius, you know, when it came to making people laugh. I don't have to tell you that, but,
right.
But he was just, and so easy to take care of, and such a nice guy, and I mean, there was only one Red Skelton, I'll tell you that.
I have to just add that we did a press conference with him for one of his art shows, and one person asked a question, and then I was the only one left asking questions, and I was recording it for a TV program. And after my second question, he looked out at me and he said, "So you're the troublemaker." Tony Lubbers, thank you so much for coming.
It was
and
a pleasure, always.
Thoughts.
We have good memories.
We have wonderful memories, and a lifetime's worth of memories. Thank you for being here. And we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Miner, and I'm sure you'd agree that Nevada's a very special place to live. I was born here, and my husband and I have raised our family here. I feel it's a privilege to live and work in the Truckee Meadows. I especially enjoy helping my clients reach their real estate goals. Sometimes the smallest details provide the greatest satisfaction. I'd be complimented to talk to you about your next move.
Call Marilyn Miner at Dixon Realty, 742-1280, or log on to marilynminer.com.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's Development Company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's Development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
You can always watch Nevada Newsmakers 24 hours a day at NevadaNewsmakers.com. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Nevada Newsmakers. We'll see you on the next broadcast.